make no friends in the pits and you take no prisoners. 1 minute you're up 500,000 in soybeans, and the next, boom.
Do not attempt to adjust your device.
The revolution starts now.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Turn those machines back on!
You are about to enter the halls of justice.
Show me the money!
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
This is the halls of justice. He is your host, Justus.
Come on, everybody. Sing with me now. Johnny Joe.
Please don't.
And in the first 45 seconds, I just got us partially muted on the YouTube because I do not own the rights to that song. My goodness.
Well,
welcome, everybody. Welcome, Fat Man. If you picked today as your first day to listen, you couldn't have picked a better program. So, as we do every start of every show, tell us where you're at this week, Fat Man.
I'm still in the Southern Command, but I have started to move north. Last week, it was live from beautiful Conch Republic, Key West. And now I've moved up the East Coast, but I'm still in Florida. I want you to know I may not be on my A game today. I had to suffer through early morning fog before we reached a high of 82 degrees. But here I am soldiering on. So just understand the A game may not be here.
Well, for me, it goes something like this. Let me clear my throat. It's 15 minutes after the hour, and it's a cold 22 degrees on the outside.
Was that a flashback? About 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's the best I could do right now, other than I could say, guys, let's give it up for the girls working real hard on the stage today. Remember, they don't make a salary here. They live on your tip. No, wait a minute. I never DJ'd at a strip bar. But I did practice a lot.
But yet you know the script so well. You know the script oddly well.
How does that happen?
To the main stage. Let's all welcome Giant.
I've never been in a adult establishment like that ever. Never.
I'm sure you haven't. And I didn't put 7 different girls through college, $1 at a time.
Nursing school. Nursing school.
In nursing school. I only know 2 of their names.
It's fun. I've never yet run across a nurse named Jade. I don't get it.
Oh, there has to be something. But speaking of the weather, how's the weather in Beijing?
Is this a trick question?
Well, no, I just assume we're going to be broadcasting from a cell in Beijing somewhere eventually if we keep talking about things that we've been talking.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get used to using chopsticks. It's okay. It's all good.
Look, I've earned my nickname, Fat Man, and I have tried to use those things. I can't do it. It's not. The Chinese have invented so many great things. If they invented chopsticks, it's their one big fail. Dumbest utensil ever.
Yeah, why? Just grab a fork and stab it.
With my fingers before I try to use chopsticks on anything. Give me a bowl of chicken noodle soup and I will eat it with my fingers.
Well, let's hope we don't come to that, but you never know. So I got to go on a rant here. I started putting a list together of all the Biden fails in the first week, some of them in the first day. These are just off the top of my head, the list of fails, because this guy is a failure. It's a complete loser. First off, he killed off 70,000 union jobs. So all you that voted for him and you voted yourself out of a job, that's what you get, because we told you it was coming and you wouldn't believe us. He pretty much eliminated women's sports. He destroyed female rights. He left the National Guard to freeze in a parking garage. He admitted he doesn't have a plan to fight the COVID, even though it's been said repeatedly that Trump left him a plan. He broke his own mask mandate within the same day, but he got a pass for that. He ended the U.S. energy independence. He canceled lower-cost insulin shots. He reintroduced critical race theory. He rescinded the ban on Chinese involvement in the American power grid. And that's just what I could come up with while I was scribbling notes down for the show. So based on that alone, he is going to go down as the worst president in history. He's going to make Obama era look good. Those were just the ones I came up with off the top of my head, as I said. So where do we go from here? This is looking bad. I mean, everything is adding up to this is looking really bad for anybody who doesn't have the exact same opinions as the Democrats.
Old adages become old adages for a reason. One of my favorites is when someone tells you who they are, believe them. For several months, we listened to Joe Biden tell us exactly who he was. In that 1 to 5 minutes per day when he was actually lucid and was doing his major news conference from the basement and answering tough questions like what flavor ice cream is that, every once in a while he would slip a little bit and the real Joe Biden would come out. He told us all of this stuff. He told us this was coming. When he confronted that worker in I think it was a mill, and I think it was late 19 when he confronted the worker or the worker confronted him and said, "I don't work for you." He meant it. Joe Biden is an angry, angry man. But after spending all of his life in public office, he learned how to keep it hidden. But now that he's not full mental capacity, and when he gets stressed, that anger screams. He actually, if you go back and look at that video that I'm referring to, when the guy said about taking your AR-15s and Biden said, well, we are going to take your AR-14s, he was getting more and more angry. And if you listen to that, Biden at one point didn't just say, "I don't work for you." He said, "Let's go outside." Paraphrasing it slightly, he basically said, if you're going to say stuff like that, let's step outside. Now, the "let's step outside," that's a direct quote. That's how he said it. He challenged a probably 25-year-old construction worker to go outside and fight. But this is the kind of stuff that happens to Joe Biden when he loses his control, because he doesn't have that mental ability to put up the pop-up blockers anymore. So every once in a while, Joe Biden would tell you exactly what he was going to do. And all of this stuff that we're seeing, the leftist agenda, he told us he was going to do it. He told us he was going to be the most progressive president in history. He told us. So we can't be surprised by any of the stuff that we're seeing. And I'm as surprised with what we're seeing over the last week as I am that the sun came up and was outside my window. The sun came up in the east. It's just not shocking.
Yeah, when he gets pushed, and he's not allowed to be pushed now, but so when he gets pushed, when Trump kept pushing him, are you going to ban fracking, Joe? Joe, tell us if you're going to ban fracking. He's like, yeah, I'm going to ban fracking. And then the first thing Trump said was, whoa, Joe, that's a big statement. Texas, do you hear this? And he knew right then. He was telling us right then what was about to happen. And sure enough, it happened. So another one of his genius orders is now, if I want to identify as a female, I can join a female sports team. I mean, the Russians have been doing it for years in the Olympics, but now it's okay in the United States. You're going
to cost us our one listener in Russia. That's 37% of our audience, and those kind of comments are going to cost us that audience.
I better not tell him then that I jumped up and down when Sylvester Stallone kicked Ivan Drago's ass. So, but yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's lunacy. I'm sorry. I can't agree with this on many levels. I can't agree on it because of, number one, what it does to women, saying it's okay now to have guys in your locker room, on your sports fields. I just can't imagine, if I were a woman, how that would make me feel. It just...
Well, even feminist organizations have come out and said this is not right. This is not what we want to do. And see, here's what happens is anytime you take a topic like this, they want to conflate that you're some sort of ist, and that you're homophobic, you're racist, you're misogynist, you're some sort of ist, and you're against people. I'm not against people. Quite the opposite. I have more faith in people and in individuals than I ever will in any government entity or anyone who has a government title. And I don't care if that's the local dog catcher or the president of the United States. As a matter of fact, I would exchange the local dog catcher right now and the president of the United States. I'd love for them to reverse positions. But when it comes to trans rights, I'm fully in support of people living their best life. And if someone is in that position, and again, I don't know what the correct medical terms are, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just telling you, if you believe you have the wrong gender and you take the steps to live that life in a different manner and change genders, God bless. Good luck to you. Enjoy your life. I hope everything works out the way you want it to be. I want people to live their best life however they see that fit and however they come to that determination. So the reason I preclude what I'm going to say with that is I want you to understand, I'm not coming from a position of, well, you are clearly against trans people. No, I'm not. Don't put the two issues together. You can be for people living their life the way they want to or the way that they feel they are genetically. You can be totally in favor of that and be totally against this, because there are simple biological facts of someone who is born as a male but now is living life as a female. They're going to have advantages, and we've seen it on the news. You've certainly seen it on the news, especially in sports like track, and especially in sports like wrestling, where there's just absolutely physical advantages that males have over females. Now, that doesn't mean you can't take somebody like the Fat Man and try to compare me to a WNBA player. Anything that WNBA player can do, I'm not going to be able to do one of those things physically. We're not on the same plane. But take an NBA player and put that player up against a WNBA player, and there's no way that WNBA player is going to be able to equal the NBA player. So there's always going to be a physical advantage when you compare apples to apples that a man's going to have over a female. And again, please don't send the letters. Please don't turn us in to the Twitters and please. I'm not saying that women, if a man can do it, a woman can do it. I firmly believe that. If a man can fly a plane, a woman can fly a plane. If a man can drive a tank, a woman can drive a tank. Please allow me to stop with all these disclaimers up front. Understand, I'm just saying the same thing that you're saying, the same thing that feminist organizations, and that's a rarity. The Fat Man feminist organizations are on the same side.
This just in.
Women should compete against women. Men should compete against men. Yeah.
This just in. Caitlyn Jenner has now joined the 2022 Summer Olympics and will compete in the women's 100-meter dash.
All those nice things I just tried to say, all that sugarcoating I tried to put, and then with one sentence you go and blow it to hell. No, I mean, we're joking a little bit. This is no joking matter. I saw the other day on television, you had a couple of young ladies who were very accomplished in track and also in basketball, and they were looking at scholarships. Well, they went to semifinals of state championships, and they're losing. They're getting beat. They're not being, you're going to get a scholarship, and all of a sudden they go, well, you didn't win the state championships. As a matter of fact, you didn't finish in the top 3. Yeah, but the people that finished ahead of me were born boys. Well, it says here that they were girls, and it's just not fair to have athletes going against athletes that have a physical advantage. It's just not fair. It really isn't. And you're right. Joe Biden is just, because, again, he's following the extreme. This isn't even a leftist thing. This is extreme left positions that anything that somebody wants to declare, that's what it is. If the fat man wants to declare himself a gazelle, damn it, look for me on the Serengeti, and there's going to be some happy lions when my fat ass goes running across the Serengeti. That's going to be one all-you-can-eat buffet for the lions. But, again, kidding aside, it's just not right. It's just not right to give people that physical advantage. It's just not.
Hold on a minute. I can't hardly breathe. I have to take off one of my masks. No, that didn't do it. Now I got to take off my other mask.
Biden agree on today? Are we now up to multiple numbers? Is one of those plastic? I hope one of those is a plastic shield.
No, it's actually a plastic bag from Walmart. So here
I'm actually using an adult diaper right now as my mask. That's what I'm going with.
All right, let's do a little segment. I'm gonna call this just in. I'm gonna read you a statement or a fact, and you have no time to prepare for it, and you give me your first thoughts. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. This just in. This is a quote. "We are on the brink of a terrible civil war," according to billionaire hedge fund manager Ray Dalio, citing a terrible financial state of the United States and a terribly divided population. And go.
I started saying the same thing 10 years ago, not as definitively as he just stated it, but I've been saying this for a decade now, that the route we're going with the divisiveness in this country and the way we hate each other and add in the melting pot of social media where we can put everybody in there and the only thing that comes out is more hate. I've been saying this, and it's not going to be, the Civil War that we had, in 1861 or whatever it was. It's good, where you just put on a blue uniform or a gray uniform and you go fight against each other. It's going to be different, but I fully believe we will see that in our lifetime.
All righty. This just in again. U.S. federal judge blocks deportation freeze following a legal challenge by Texas, dealing an early blow to President Biden's immigration plans.
And, of course, the first thing the left comes out and says, this doesn't have anything to do with the law. This has to do with this guy was appointed by President Trump. Trump said it many times. Past presidents have said it, both Republican and Democratic presidents and members of Congress have said it. If you don't have borders, you don't have a country. This, to me, is such a simple thing. If you come into this country illegally and we catch you, throw them out. And you know what? If you feel so strongly about having people come into this country illegally and cut the line from all the people who are doing it legally, if you feel so damn strongly about that, well, you know what? Let's give people special dispensation that they can come into this country illegally, but the thing is, they get to stay in one of your bedrooms for their entire life. You are now solely responsible for that individual. Give them a bedroom, pay for their food, pay for their room and board, and that person now belongs to you. If you want to do that, God bless. Let them do it. But you know what? We have a country. We have a way to get into this country. There's a legal way to get into it. End of story. If we catch you here, I don't care whether you committed a felony or not. Crossing into our country is a crime. Coming into our country illegally is a crime. Look what happens when you try to cross into Iran. You go to jail. And you don't go to jail, nice jail. You go to really, really bad jail. Try to cross into North Korea. Try to cross into China. Try to cross into Russia. Go into Mexico, our neighbor to the south. Go into Canada. People don't appreciate you coming into their country illegally. They throw you out. That's all we should be doing. You come in here, you don't stay, you don't get health care, you don't get college, throw them out.
And the funny part was Joe's predecessor, Obama, said that people should not circumvent the legal process to get in. So even he said it. All right, this one just in, too. The president of China calls on the world, and now listen to this carefully, to take down trade barriers and bolster global organizations for governance. Global organizations for governance. And go.
The biggest thing, even more so than the Civil War we talked about a few minutes ago, that scares me and keeps me up at night is globalization of the United States. It started many, many years ago when the UN was given more and more control over our security, even our military, and we finally wised up to it and started having some pushback. Nikki Haley was really good at it, and some of her predecessors. Bolton was really good at it, although he's a little bit on the whack job side, but he was also very good at pushing back against globalism. People like John Kerry, absolutely a globalist. Hillary Clinton, globalist. Joe Biden, globalist. They really believe in the concept. Again, this is what I always say about Democrats and Republicans. Democrats, and I've said on this show before, Democrats feel, Republicans think. All Democrats see in this situation is the opportunity to feel good. We're all one earth. We're all in this big blue pill together. Let's give everybody everything. Let's just give. If you don't have a house, let's give you a house. Doesn't that feel good? It's all about feeling good. But at the end of the day, utopias don't work. It's fact that when you give people stuff, it doesn't work. And when you give people the whole entire globe and just say, the world is your oyster, just go live your life. How do you break that down? There has to be some qualifier, or everybody's going to want the Lamborghini. Everybody's going to want the yacht.
Yes.
Everybody's going to want the easy job. No one's going to want to work in the sewer department. No one's going to want to be a plumber. Everybody's going to want the easy part. And what happens when you have these utopia societies, you don't see the people on the bottom being pulled up by the people who are supposed to be, quote, on the top. They've got the good jobs, they've got the good incomes, or however you want to phrase it. What happens is the people on the bottom pull the overachievers down. So if you're an overachiever and I'm an underachiever, I don't look at you and go, man, I want to be more like Justus. It ends up happening. You look at me and go, I want to be like the fat man. I want to sit on the couch all day and not do anything and still get my paycheck. But that's what they want. They want this globalist society where we're all on the same team. You can't do it. It won't work because everybody's not going to pull the same amount of weight. And when somebody sees, first thing I see, if I'm working hard every day, 10 hours a day, and you're supposed to and you're not, the first thing I'm going to do is go, I ain't working that hard. And then society will absolutely crumble. This isn't something that's going to happen in 3 years, 5 years. This is a long-range goal, and it's all led by George Soros. And I know this is really crazy conspiracy stuff, but globalism is the fact that it's even being discussed in this country is frightening.
So, putting on my tinfoil hat, I've always thought, not so much that there's a secret government, but I have always thought that there are people more powerful than the current president, no matter who it is. As you mentioned.
You mean like the Rothschilds?
Like what?
Like Rothschilds and the Rothschilds? And,
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. If you have enough money and you have enough influence, then I believe that you don't need to have the title. You don't need to have the public face of it. I believe you could. You can do enough, and you could pull the strings, and you could basically get whatever you want accomplished. I just believe that. All right, this one. Here we go. We kind of touched on it already, but this just in. Dr. Fauci first says no masks, then you have to wear masks, and now the masks are so effective. We're wearing the masks. They're so effective. Now we got to wear 2 masks, not 1 but 2. Go.
Is that just in? Is it my turn now?
Yeah. That was it. That was it. I had this big build up, and there was nothing.
Well, I didn't know if you were done. I didn't want to interrupt the breaking news desk with this just in. because this is one that I was hoping I didn't know you were going to do this, but I was hoping we would get to this. I, from the beginning, was in Fauci's corner. I tried to support the guy. Working for Donald Trump has to be a very difficult situation for anybody. It's got to be difficult being one of his kids. And Fauci working for him had a very, very tough assignment. But now that Trump is gone, he has come out and he has absolutely thrown the president under the bus. Then, after throwing the president under the bus, he comes out and says, it's not productive to talk about the former administration's handling. And I'll quote here, I really don't want to go back and rehash. That is not productive. Then he goes back and he absolutely rehashes what he didn't like about the president. That he would get calls, from the president himself. He would get a call from the staff and say, oh, you shouldn't be so negative. All he did was throw President Trump under the bus. Meanwhile, we've got Operation Warp Speed. So as he's doing this, the one thing that's in my mind is, what about masks? Because one of the things Fauci was hinting at was that Trump lied. And again, my mind turned right to, what about masks? Fauci, as you already highlighted, said, we don't need to, famously or infamously said, we don't need to wear masks. Then later, when it turned out that we did need to wear masks, or they said we need to wear masks, he covered it up by saying, oh, well, yeah, no, when I said don't wear masks, what I meant was don't wear masks, but we should wear masks, but I can't tell you to wear the mask, because if you wore the mask, then we wouldn't have enough masks for the healthcare people. Wait, what? Let me hit that rewind. I said, don't wear masks. And the reason I told the American people not to wear masks is I was lying to them because I didn't want to have a shortage of N95 masks. Wait, what? So you just said President Trump, lied multiple times. He came up with harebrained ideas, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, you just said you did the exact same thing. When you thought the best thing for the American people was to lie to them, you lied to them. So Fauci, you just made the list.
It's okay, though, because if you're a Democrat, you're allowed to lie. You get a pass. What kills me is, at one point they said it was okay just to wear a cloth gaiter. But now you got to wear two masks.
Or an actual alligator. You can actually put an alligator on your head.
There you go. All righty, sit tight. We're on the highway to hell, and we'll be back in a minute.
Would you like to be a sponsor or advertise on the Halls of Justice? Email us today at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. That's Halls of Justice, spelled Justus, at roadrunner.com. If you have a show idea or like to be a guest, you can email us as well at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com.
And we are back. Don't forget, if you do have a show idea, as Mr. Announcer Man told you, you can email us. We do have a new email, by the way. It is just justus@hallsofjustice.com. If you haven't checked out the new and improved website, I encourage you to do that. You can follow us.
Why is there a fat man at hallsoffatman.com? How come I don't get, there's no billing. There should be fat man at hallsoffatman, or it would be fat men. Fat man. Let's go fatman.com.org.net.
Well, here's the funny thing is, I can bet you haven't checked out the updated website lately.
It's 85 degrees, and I've got a motorcycle, and I'm in Florida. What do you think?
Yeah. Your picture may or may not have been updated.
Oh, great.
I warned you. So there you go. So, I just feel good that we're able to do this once a week. We're able to sit here, talk about some serious stuff, throw some jokes in there to try to keep it lightened up. I just ask that people go ahead and follow us. This week we passed 1,000 downloads. And
we did?
Yeah. How many episodes have we had? 6, 7, something like that. So we passed 1,000 downloads. Not a huge amount, but it's growing. In just the last, let's see if I can pull this up real quick. In just the last week alone, we gained like 60-some followers on our Facebook page. So the word's getting out there. It takes a little bit of time, obviously, with anything, but the word is slowly getting out there. All right, so
you people need a hobby. I mean, no. Thanks for listening. I need a hobby. Can I talk about the pipeline and the vote? Can I?
Let's do it. Talk about the pipeline and the vote.
Okay, so this goes back to what you were talking about, Biden being the worst president. One of the first things he does, he spits absolutely in the face of these unions that supported him. These pipe fitters came out and they backed him. They backed him. They helped lead him to the presidency. The first thing he does, first day in the office, blocks the construction of the Keystone pipeline. Of course, that all tied in with the rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, and of course, the other big one, stopping the oil and gas leasing of Alaska. So here's the thing about this pipeline: the oil is still going to be produced. This isn't doing anything to help the environment. It's actually doing the exact opposite. And this is really where liberalism comes to the forefront. Whatever they tell you they're going to do, the net result is going to be the opposite. So they're telling you they're going to stop the Keystone pipeline, and that's going to help the environment. Okay, there isn't going to be one drop of less of oil consumed or produced because the United States is not going to participate in this pipeline. Not one drop. So the oil is still going to be out there. Now, that oil, instead of going through a clean and environmentally friendly pipe, is going to have to be trucked or shipped by rail, or it's going to end up on tankers. All of those things are more dangerous and much more harmful to the environment. It's a case of, ooh, I love the smell of diesel in the morning, right? and now that's what you're going to have. Instead of that flowing through a pipeline from Canada down to the Gulf Coast, it's going to be on vehicles using diesel fuel to transport it. And this, again, goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You had to listen to Joe Biden. And if you just listened to him, he was going to tell you what he thought because he was going to get angry and his pop-up blockers were going to go away. Biden told us during the campaign that when you lose your job because I'm going to put a ban on fracking and I'm going to stop this pipeline, I'm going to do all of these things to attack fossil fuels. When that happens, you can go build solar panels. That was his quote. They can be the people to go to work and make the solar panels. Right?
Yeah.
So
genius.
Doubling down on that, yeah, absolute genius. Then he also famously said, and this is how they look down on blue-collar jobs and blue-collar workers. He calls himself, Scranton Joe and all this kind of stuff. What a bunch of horse hockey. He absolutely, just like the rest of the Liberal Party, they look down on blue-collar workers. You're not as good as them. You never will be, no matter what you do, no matter how many job changes you have. You will never be as good as them. He said that if you can go into a mine and mine coal, you can write code. What? How about the years of training? Let's just look at that. Just break that down for just a second. The years of education and training to be able to write computer code. You're going to take somebody who's been it would be almost like killing them. You take somebody that's been working in a coal mine. Of course, working in a coal mine, working in a steel, that is hard work, man. I came from a blue-collar family. They work hard. They came home with dirty hands, and they worked hard. It is a tough life. But the payoff on the end was they were able to provide for their families. Now you're going to take that person and you're going to put them in a pair of Dockers and a shirt and a button-down shirt and say, go sit in front of a computer screen now all day. How many of them are going to want to do that? But that didn't matter. That didn't matter. Whether they wanted to or not was irrelevant. It was going to be better for them because Joe Biden knows that working in the mill is hard. Working in a coal mine is hard. We're going to make it easier for them. We're going to have them write code. And that'll be a better life for them. Who cares if they want to do that or not? That's totally irrelevant to the situation. And here's his exact quote. Anybody who can go down 3,000 feet in a mine can sure as hell learn to program as well. Anybody who can throw coal into a furnace can learn how to program, for God's sake. So if you look at that comment and you say, well, that was just crazy Joe. No. John Kerry followed that up just a couple of days ago, saying that President Biden wants fossil fuel workers who lose their jobs, I mean the people on the pipeline, to lose their jobs to have better choices and going to make the solar panels. Here's the quote, what President Biden wants to do is make sure that those folks have better choices, that they can be the people to go to work and make solar panels. Who decides that's a better choice? Who decides?
Yeah, I don't know.
They do, because they know better. They are a government. They are the globalists. They know better how to run your life than you do. They are the same people that are locking down restaurants. They are the same people that are locking kids out of schools, causing irreparable damage. They're the same people blowing up economies because they know what's best for you. You don't. It's every aspect of life. It's not just your job. It's how you live your life, and it's how you exist. They want their hand in every single aspect of it, and this is further proof of it. And these quotes, you can't just take these words at face value, because if you look at it, like I said before, you look at these words and it's like, oh, isn't that nice? Hey, he wants the workers to have better lives. Aw, no, I'm all warm and fuzzy. I got that warm fuzzy, Chris Matthews, that warm feeling running up my leg right now. I feel so good that somebody in the government is telling me what to do and how to run my life better. But when do I get to tell you, I don't want to sit in a computer screen. I don't want to be in a cubicle 10 hours a day. I'm happy down in that mine. I'm happy in that mill. I'm happy driving that truck. And I make a good living to take care of my family. That's what's going on with this president. And what he's doing with this pipeline is absolutely, again, pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do, and you will see who they are. And right now, Joe Biden and John Kerry and the band of thieves that they run with, they're showing you and telling you exactly who they are and what they think of you.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for weeks. We're not too overly intelligent guys, but we saw the writing on the wall a long time ago. So have you had a chance to see any of, since you're down in vacation land, any of the Joe Biden signings of these executive orders or any of the little
working
updates?
remotely? This is not vacation land. I'm working remotely, in case the IRS is listening. This is all work.
So remember, no matter what Trump did, the media would hound him with questions when he was done for 20, 30 minutes sometimes. He would sit there and be hounded, right? If you watch now, Sleepy Joe has his handlers, and they might get one question off, and lately they've been getting no questions off. And Sleepy Joe doesn't even say anything. It's the handlers saying, okay, we got to go now. No questions, and they usher him out of the room. He's not allowed to take any questions, and now apparently he's not allowed to work on Saturdays. So you could really tell that Sleepy Joe is just a puppet. He doesn't know what he's signing most of the time. He's got to look it up. He couldn't even find a pocket in his coat to put his pen back in. I know that's petty, but it'll look pretty stupid on TV.
When I was watching him sign the executive orders, I hate to bring this into it, but my mother has Alzheimer's, and I watch her sometimes when we were allowed to see her actually, when she would be putting a puzzle together. And that was one of the activities she really enjoyed, was doing puzzles. But when she would move her hand would move very slowly and very deliberately. And if the hand ran into something, you could see her thinking about, what do I do with my hand now? If you watch Joe Biden, he signed this one particular order, closed the folder, and put it off to his left. He pulled another one off the stack, one of the 38 or whatever he's up to now, dozens more than any of his predecessors, including Obama did, and Clinton and Trump. But when he opens up the second folder, it kind of hits the first folder. And you just watch him try to move that first folder out of the way. He looked so feeble. And I couldn't believe what I was watching, because I was flashing back to seeing my mom, who suffers from Alzheimer's. I was watching her hands move like his. The difference being, he's president of the United States. Mm-hmm. He's got the nuclear codes. Mm-hmm. Now, I hate when people say he's got the nuclear codes. I don't think Joe Biden's going to set off a nuclear weapon. That's not what I'm saying. But the point being, he looks so unsteady. He looks so unstable. It was absolutely laughable. And going back to what you were saying about the press, the press conferences, I don't know if you saw it. He asked a question, or I don't know how it got passed, but he decided to take a question from Peter Doocy of Fox, who is actually, for a young guy, is really showing that he's not afraid to get in there and ask questions in a proper manner that's respectful of the office, but also ask tough questions. And before Biden called on Doocy, he made this big speech about, well, this guy always asks me questions with a sharp edge, but, I like him anyways. Let's let him ask the question. And Doocy asks him, you talked to Putin, what did you talk about? And Biden's response was, we talked about you. And instead of the reporters in the room being aghast at the flippant response that the President of the United States had just given to a reporter in a question about interaction with Russia, which we've all been on pins and needles about for 5 years, Russia, 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 the room breaks out in laughter. They thought it was the greatest thing ever, that the President of the United States had just ridiculed Fox's reporter. Fine, nature of the beast. President Trump did it all the time. But what happened? The media stood up in unity and said, you can't treat us this way. You can't treat us this way. And they all used Trump's aggressive nature to boost their own ratings. And while they were doing that, they were complaining about Trump not being presidential. But here is Biden doing the exact same thing. And that made the room break out in laughter. Sad.
That's why I can't be president, because if I were going to do a smart comment like that, I wouldn't have said, they said, Justus, what did you talk to Russia about? And he said, you? See, I would have said, your mom. Yeah, I'm out on that. So you said that Biden has the nuclear codes. I'm pretty sure they just gave him a losing scratch-off lottery ticket and told him these are the codes. Joey, here's the codes. He lost. Somebody run down to the Sunoco, get another ticket.
Did you see when he was signing in addition to being so feeble that he could barely move one executive order binder or folder out of the way to put the other one down, looking over his shoulder?
Always.
Who was there?
I know what you're saying. Always. Everything. She is lurking. Well,
I have never seen a vice president act this way. She hovers over his every single stinking move. And we've talked about it on this show before. Every time you hear this, it's the Trump presidency, it's the Obama presidency, it's the Clinton presidency, it's the Bush, it's the Truman, it's the Lincoln, it's the Washington. This one, it's the Biden-Harris administration. This is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And it's right there for people to see. Yeah. This is so ridiculous what's going on. Kakala, as I call her, because that's all she does is cackle. Like the Wicked Witch of the West. Kakala, there's no way Kakala could have won. She couldn't even get out of the Democrat primary. Remember, she was the first one out. She didn't even make it to the first vote. She was the first one out.
She got
completely
destroyed.
unlikable.
Yeah,
she's a radical. Bernie Sanders says that she's left of Bernie Sanders, and that's not even a joke. That's actual honest assessment. She's left of Bernie Sanders. There's no way they could get her elected other than doing it like this. They needed Uncle Joe to get her in the door, and then he will slither away. Okay, I was president. I could put it on my tombstone. I'm good. I'm going to go get myself some Ensure and some oatmeal. It's Judge Wapner time. And that's the way it's going to be. And then you're going to get Kakala. And I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anybody, because normally they win the vice president and they become vice president, they're sworn in, and then about 4 years later you see them again. And that doesn't mean they're not doing anything. I'm sure there's been different levels of involvement for vice presidents over the year, depending on the president. I have never seen one so involved. We're only a week or 10 days in, but I've never seen one involved like this. And you use the right word, hovering, just standing there looking, going, I know that seat's going to feel good on my ass when I get in there. I can't wait for my ass to be in that Oval Office seat. Can't wait.
See, and I always thought that they weren't supposed to be in the same place together, especially now that you might have some crazy white supremacist domestic terrorist group storm the building and go crazy. Why would you want number one and number two in the same place? I said number one and number two.
Well, I think you have a situation where, first of all, they're in the White House, but they do try to keep them apart if they're, if there's danger. That's why, the designated survivor and all that kind of stuff. There are contingencies where there are times when the president and the vice president shouldn't be in the same. But in the White House, they're pretty safe in the White House. Although, when the White House police force or the Secret Service decides to just open up the doors and let rioters in, then I guess anything can happen, because apparently that's how they do security at the Capitol. Why would it be any different at the White House? Somebody shows up at the door and says, "Hey, we want in there." You just open the door and you go in. I don't know. I toured the Capitol about a year and a half ago. I didn't get in the Capitol that easy. I had to go through all kind of checkpoints and body scans, and I asked for the probe, but they refused me. But that's a whole different story. And I don't want to get on the Capitol topic, but that Capitol thing is such a fiasco.
I have two friends that work for the Secret Service. One works in the uniform police, and the other is the suit and tie one, who's usually with the advance parties for when the president comes in. And I would really love for them to be able to come on here anonymously. I know it'll never happen, but my goodness, some of the stories that those two could share would be enough to fill hours, through the grapevine. And I stay in touch with one of them more so than the other. It would just be crazy to get them on. So we have about 10 minutes left, and I think this is going to be funny. I think it's time to lighten up a little. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Well, outside of almost dying today, nothing really eventful happened to me. So, if you wanted to talk about almost the end of the Fat Man, and yes, you would have been one of the pallbearers, so you better start working out.
Yeah.
It almost happened today.
I got to hear the story. Tell me how you almost died.
Here's the thing. I am so fed up with people who ride in the fast lane and go the speed limit. I'm so fed up with the people who, when I go to order a cup of coffee in a restaurant and they don't fill my coffee cup up. And I'm really tired of hearing about sidewalk or seeing sidewalk, I call them sidewalk kamikazes, that are just walking with their faces buried in their phone, and they walk right into crosswalks. That's not what the law is. You don't have the right to enter the crosswalk. You have the right to have me stop when you're in the crosswalk, but you don't have the right to enter it. Also, the fast lane on the highway, the passing lane on the highway, it wasn't built for you.
Oh, yes.
Mary special button. It was not built for you as your travel lane. There's a reason they have fast lane. Okay. Now, why am I battling on about almost dying in fast lane? Glad you asked. So today, I'm pulling a trailer that normally carries my two-wheeled transportation device, but this time was carrying a couple grills in it. So I'm coming down the interstate. I passed a car in the fast lane, and this was a three-lane road. So I passed the car in the furthest left-hand lane, and then I merged back into the middle lane, where I should be. I'm maintaining speed. It was a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit. I was going 75 miles per hour, and I'm maintaining speed. Just cruising down the middle lane. Pulling a trailer. So I see a car pass me, and this car is maybe 10 or 15 feet past me. All of a sudden, I see this gray-green Ford Focus come flashing out of nowhere up my left-hand side. And right now, there's probably 20 feet between the car in the left-hand lane and my car in the middle lane. And this Ford Focus comes in and cuts me off. I'm going 75 miles an hour, pulling a trailer. At this, about her middle of her car was at my front wheel when she started coming over. I immediately lay on the horn, undeterred. That lane belonged to her. That lane absolutely belonged to her. And I swerved the truck. I actually have video of this. I swerved the truck. Now, because I have the trailer and I'm going 75, I start getting a little wiggle. The trailer is starting to wag the truck. Thank goodness there wasn't any car on my right-hand side, and I eventually gained control. But honestly, I was on Interstate 95, and this is bumper-to-bumper traffic all the time. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning. But for some grace of God, there was no tractor trailer or another vehicle on my right-hand side. And I pulled over, and like I said, the truck is wiggling back and forth. I thought we were going to roll. I really did. And I was able to slow it down and get control and get back into my lane. I blew the horn at the woman as she was doing this maneuver, and when she decided my lane was actually her lane and I needed to ipso facto my fatness out of there. The best part, as she's driving away after almost killing us, she flips me off. She flips me off.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, but here's the secret. Here's the secret little problem that she didn't count on. One, I had the dash cam, and it's really amazing how well those license plate numbers show up on dash cams. And most times, there's not much you can do with that, except when the person sitting in the passenger seat happens to be a member of the law enforcement community.
Yes.
And this person actually happens to live in the town where he is a member of the law enforcement community. I'm suspecting she's going to commit a traffic violation at some point. But she almost killed us and flipped us off.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
I joke, but yeah, no, it was ugly. I mean, it was ugly. My heart jumped out of my chest. It was ugly. Especially, it was one thing I thought I had to move over, but when that trailer started wiggling the car and we were wobbling, oh man, that was scary business. So it was almost the halls of justice with just justice.
Oh man,
you almost lost a lot of weight.
I tell you, I would have had to spend 3, 4, 5 minutes finding somebody else.
Well, remember when I said earlier in the day, or earlier in the show, that I was using a pens as a mask. That's why I have them now. Because it's a good thing I had a pair with me. Because
right.
Man, I would have left some marks. It was interesting. So.
I love my dash cam.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I love it. I've had one. I got a Nexar, and I love it. 99% of the time, you don't ever replay it or anything, but that 1%, it really comes in handy. So, hey, being the big fan of food and celebration, do you happen to know when the Chinese New Year begins? Without looking
I don't know,
it up.
but I really like my General Tso's. I really like General Tso's. That's close I can get you.
So this made me think of you. The Chinese New Year actually begins on February the 12th. And then as a public holiday, Chinese people get 7 days off. So what do they have to do, right? Thinking to themselves, they're struggling to contain the rising COVID-19 infections ahead of the Chinese New Year. So Beijing has introduced, you were the first person I thought of when I read the story, they have introduced anal swabs as the new type of coronavirus test. Folks, you could Google this. This is real live stuff here. You can now get an anal swab to see if you have the COVID. So that gives you something to look forward to. You know, I would love to go to the ER and go, I'm not feeling so good. Can I get me one of them there anal swabs?
Question. Can you request the size of the swab? I'm asking this for a friend. Can you request, are there varying degrees of swab sizes? And what is the, if so, what's, again, asking for a friend, what is the biggest swab that you can get that might be available, just out of curiosity?
Do you want the long swab or the wide swab?
I prefer both. I mean, this friend said that they preferred both because it was a more accurate result to the test. It was a much more, it's like much higher accuracy on the result there. And it's just, again, for a friend, there happen to be any of those testing? I know you mentioned China, but is there any chance there's any of those in Florida? Just curiosity.
Let me Google this. So,
do you have an address?
I'm sure there's probably a drive-by place where you can.
Kidding aside, who thought of it? Seriously, who thought of it? Who was sitting there going, seriously, who thought of this? How do we test it? Well, we swab the mouth. We might put some, in the nose and nothing almost to your brain there with a. But I know what we could do. Let's take this garden hose and send it up to Keister for Easter, and that's the way we'll determine whether you've got COVID or not.
So,
by the way, Dr. Fauci says that. Dr. Fauci said the Chinese are innocent. By the way, they didn't create this.
Well, so, this was supposed to be the 5 minutes of fun, but I also saw the World Health Organization, who I've hated since day one, says there's not enough evidence to say that the virus originated in China yet. I'm like, are you for real? So, on that same note, one of the executive orders that Sleepy Joe has done is he has actually banned the use of such terms as China virus and Wuhan virus when referring to COVID-19. The order applies to federal agencies and public health documents. So we're still good to call it the China plague because I like that, and I like the Kung flu myself. But apparently... if you're in a federal agency or you're writing a public health document, you cannot call it the China virus or the Wuhan virus. And we could spend a whole show how I am 99% certain this virus was made in that lab in Wuhan that Fauci has donated money to and continues to have an investment interest into. And maybe we'll do that at a future point. But the ties run deep to him on this one. If you all haven't looked that up, that's some Googling info for you right there.
And I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not a smart man, as I demonstrate weekly, but it seems to me there's an odd amount of connections between, I don't even hate to say this because it's so just out there, but President Biden and China seem to come up in the same conversation with lots of similar connections. I don't know what that means, but again, I am not a smart man, Jenny, but I will tell you that there are lots of things that make me go, like that rapper once said.
Yeah. What's that? Oh, my goodness. Hey, you talked about the coal mine a little while ago.
Yeah, apparently, you talked about the shaft, but go ahead.
Yeah, we have a clip lined up of a famous coal miner here. Let's go ahead and roll this.
I think I'm getting the black lung, Bob. It's not very well ventilated down there.
Oh, you ever watch Zoolander?
Once, and I'm embarrassed to admit that I watched it.
I think I'm getting the black lung pop. Oh, my goodness. Hey, how about
the end yet?
Of course, we're almost at the end. How about the Bernie mittens? How about the memes? I mean, if he had that much support, he would have been nominated.
I love them. First of all, I'm one of the people that loved the white cat memes, and I love the Bernie Sanders memes. They just keep getting better. They just keep getting better. In Western Pennsylvania, where I grew up and out and got most of my fatness, we have something called the Pittsburgh chair. So what it is when you shovel out the spot of snow in front of your house, you don't want somebody else taking that parking spot. So you put a folding chair out there. And this is actually a thing in Pittsburgh. And one of the first things that came out was somebody put Bernie in front of a shoveled out parking spot. And it was just hilarious. And at that point I was hooked. They are fantastic. The one with, it's Trump's head and it looks like the Bernie's face was a mask. That was a really good one. I mean, they're I love them. They're awesome. They're just awesome.
Well, we may not live in the fast lane, but that is
for me.
we try. That is going to about do it for this rousing episode of the Halls of Justice. Don't forget, if you got a show idea, get them to us. Justus at hallsofjustice.com. We will be back next week, everybody, with yet more fun. And be sure you spread the word. As I said, we have 1,000 downloads and like 6 or 7 shows, and our following list just keeps going on and on. I want to say thank you to the Fat Man, and we will talk to you next week.
You've been listening to The Halls of Justice. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have a show idea, would like to be a guest, or just want to communicate with a show, email us at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. You can also find us on Facebook. Tell all your friends. And we'll see you for a new episode next week of The Halls of Justice.